Hello and welcome to Andy's Bet Club podcast. I'm Joe, here to put together a four-leg bet builder for you for this Sunday's EFL Cup final between Manchester City and Arsenal. Joining me on this episode to help me, I've got two Andy's Bet Club writers and experts. It's Rob and Ramis, who came very close this week with the Barca-Newcastle bet builder they put together. Who's on our naughty list again, Rob? Was it Anthony Gordon?
Yeah, it's Anthony Gordon for that one. I don't want to throw Ramis under the bus, but it was Ramis and Robin picking on that. No. What I was going to say is it was Ramis and Robin picking on that one. I was hosting, but that was that your selection, Ramis, or was that Robin's?
I'm going to have to throw Robin under the bus. It was his.
Yeah. We're just passing it on to each other.
It's just Robin's fault. But I knew it was cursed when Sky Bet super boosted Gordon to have a shot on target. You always know when there's a super boost curse. Yeah. So we were written off from the start.
Great game though. I mean, not for Newcastle fans, but that first when it went 2-2, and you'd have got good odds on an anti-Alanga brace, wouldn't you? I mean, you'd get good odds on him to get a brace at any given time, but what a game.
Yeah, I enjoyed someone said that the only reason Kieran Trippier was not sent off was that the ref thought, well, second half could be this could be any scoreline. Why would I jeopardise that? In the end, he might as well have gone really, by the way it finished. But I would expect a slightly tighter game on Sunday with this EFL Cup final. Ramis, both sides will have their eye on us, the league, I'd say more so. But that doesn't really mean that come Sunday, this is not a must-win game for either of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think the EFL Cup final sometimes is looked down a little bit, but I think it actually means quite a lot to both of these teams. Obviously, Guardiola has won so much throughout his career, but it hasn't quite been going to the plan for the last two seasons at City. You know, if he doesn't win this, we could be looking at a situation where City have won no major trophies for the last 2 years, which is pretty crazy. And then from Arsenal's point of view, obviously, Mikel Arteta hasn't won a trophy since he won that FA Cup with basically an Unai Emery squad. So I think it does mean a lot for both managers, but I think it is worth noting that Guardiola has won 21 of the 24 cup finals that he's managed, so he's got a fantastic record. But recent FA Cup defeats against obviously Crystal Palace for Joe and Manchester United maybe have him a little bit more nervous for this one.
Yeah, it's and coming off not a great result in the week. I mean, they didn't disgrace themselves in the second leg, but you know that's still a deflated exit, Rob, given they want to compete in every tournament, don't they?
Yeah, it was disappointing, but I mean, I think it was kind of taken, I was about to say out of their hands, but pardon the pun, with Bernardo Silva's red card. It did it killed the momentum, really. I'd have been really excited to see how that game could have panned out had that not happened, because it just kind of gave Real Madrid the opportunity to just, slow it down, and then it gets to a certain point where City are looking at it and thinking, are we going to score 3 goals here? It was disappointing, but yeah, on this one, I'm really looking forward to it. Me and Ramis have, although we agree on kind of how we think the game will go, we are slightly split on who we think is going to win this. I think Arsenal are going to do it, and Ramis is siding with City. One thing we have agreed on is that we're expecting some very interesting tactics from Mikel Arteta, I think, in this one. Oh, yeah. So we're braced for something pretty. Well, not pretty at all, actually. I'm braced for some hideous football, to be honest, from Mikel Arteta, so maybe Pep can balance that out a bit.
Well, you say some kind of hideous tactics, but also some slightly longer sort of picks and selections today. We are going with a higher odds bet builder today, listener. So if you are a little bit more hesitant to go on those longer odds, we are going to offer a standout selection as well for you, so keep an eye out for that. But without further ado, let's get into this four-leg bet builder. Ramis, what's the first one that you two have settled on?
We've gone for Antoine Semenyo, a favourite on this podcast, to score or be shown a card at 2.4. Is that
my love interest you called it, Ramis, and you're the one?
It's almost a relief that Ramis was the one that had to say it there. I think you're out of a lot of trouble.
He actually said to me, I'm getting this before you. So
I did
he's getting jealous, I think.
I am a little bit, because he's such a good player to back. That's why, Semenyo has been fantastic this season. Only Erling Haaland and Igor Thiago scored more goals in the Premier League. And if you look at non-penalty goals, then Semenyo is second only to Haaland. So he's had a fantastic season. It's not an exaggeration to call him one of the best goal scorers in the country at the moment. I do like this market for certain players to score or to be shown a card, particularly for players that I know are going to be involved in pretty much all of the action. Enzo Fernandez is another one. Bruno Fernandes is another example as well. And I think Semenyo fits into that category. As well as those 15 goals in the Premier League, he's picked up 6 yellow cards. And I actually had a look at his last few games against Arsenal when he was at Bournemouth, and he was booked in each of the last 2 of those as well. So it's clearly an opposition maybe he doesn't really like that much. And I think in this game particularly, it's something that may come to the fore. Obviously, Semenyo's been playing quite centrally recently. I mean, Guardiola moves his players around all the time, so it's not a guarantee he could be back out on the wing. But if he is in the central role, then he's going to be directly up against Eberechi Eze, who's fantastic at winning fouls, glides through the middle of the park. And then Semenyo also, if he is central as well, I think he's got a better option to kind of get shots away. We talked about before on this podcast how two-footed he is. We've backed him for the shots on target. I don't actually think he's let us down every time we've taken him for those shots on target. So he's such a good player, two-footed, and he's also got that reckless side to him as well, averaging nearly 2 fouls committed per 90 in the Premier League this season. And Manchester City, generally speaking, have been a bit more aggressive than they usually are out of possession. They've picked up 56 yellow cards in the Premier League, which compared to last season, they picked up 57. So already, 8 games left, and they're probably going to exceed that card total. So I can see Semenyo having plenty of opportunities in front of goal, but also having those opportunities to commit fouls and pick up that card.
That's some interesting card stats there. I would never have really had him as that type of player. I guess he isn't that quote-unquote type of player, but perhaps those born out of frustration and, high, particularly a contest like this where it will be high intensity. You're talking about the 2 best sides in the country. Keeping up with the pace, you're going to concede some fouls, and if it's particularly bad, maybe a yellow there as well, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with Ramis on this. I really enjoy this market. I think it's just such a fun one to track as well. It's a bit of a double-edged sword that you're getting with it, and a few of the names Ramis listed off there. It's great to just kind of cover a couple of bases, I think.
Yeah. Let's put it in. Antoine Semenyo to score or be shown a card is our first selection on this 4-leg bet builder. Rob, where are we going second?
So we're going to go for Bernardo Silva to commit 2 or more fouls at 2.25. I gravitate towards Bernardo Silva in big games. I think he's a really consistent bet for fouls and cards in big matches. Pep, despite like what happened in midweek, he trusts him probably more than just about anyone in the squad. I would say he's the 5th highest for minutes this season under Guardiola, and throughout his time there, he's just been he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife, isn't he? He can play deeper, he can play out wide, he can play as a 10. I could see him playing fullback at some point when Pep inevitably tries that. But expect him to play a little bit deeper in this one. He's averaging 1.38 fouls per 90 minutes across all competitions this season, which obviously is a little bit below that mark, but he does tend to step it up in bigger games. He's committed quite a lot of fouls when the opposition has stepped up. Like he committed 2 and 3 against Newcastle. He committed 5 against Chelsea. I think committed 2 against Liverpool as well. So in those bigger games, it does tend to kind of flow with that kind of passion and that intensity that you were talking about, Joe. And I think the great thing with Bernardo Silva is that it's never down to kind of his opponents. I don't feel like. I think it's great that he was probably going to see a bit of Eberechi Eze that, as Ramis said, does draw a good number of fouls. But he's just so intent and hell bent at times on getting the ball back. He's just nibbling away at people, and a lot of his fouls are very, very meaningless. He's just tripping people up, and he's so aggressive in his press. But then I was looking, like I say, I like backing him for cards. I didn't realise quite how many he was on this season. He's got 13 in all competitions, so it's already the worst season of discipline in his entire career, which is pretty crazy. Maybe that's coming with the age. I don't know what the exact kind of reason for that is, but yeah, really happy to go for 2+ fouls in a big game like this.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know City have their moments with rotational fouling. Perhaps they're being called out on it a little bit more. But yeah, that's a mad amount.
Yeah. Yeah, he's 9 in the Premier League as well. Like, there can't be many players that are on that number.
No, and there is no cut-off point for that, is there? So another one, he will get a 2-game ban, won't he?
I think it's if you get one more before game week 32 or such. Because if he gets one more yellow card, he's suspended for the Arsenal league game. If it happens between now and that game.
Blimey. Well, sounds like a good selection then. We'll put that alongside Antoine Semenyo to be scored or shown a card. That's Bernardo Silva, 2+ fouls. Ramis, our third pick.
Our third pick is Eberechi Eze to have 1 or more shots on target at 1.8. I'd be interested to see if you agree with this, Joe, because I as Palace fan, I think Eze is a fantastic player in big moments, in big games. We saw him in the semi-final of the FA Cup last year score, and then in the final against City score the winner as well. But I do think he's a bit inconsistent at times. I think there's times throughout the season, I mean, a good example this year between the two Tottenham games where Eze kind of coasts a little bit, and maybe that's why Arteta doesn't trust him. But for the purposes of our selection here, I think Eze is the perfect player to back for a shot on target in a game of this magnitude. He is a bit erratic with his shots. He's averaging just under 3 shots per game in the Premier League this season, seeing 0.96 of them find a target per 90. But as I've said before on this podcast, I always like backing players for shots on target when I know they're going to take on these speculative efforts. I mean, Eze scored a fantastic goal against Leverkusen during the week. He needs to do that a bit more often for me to be at the level where a lot of people maybe had him when he first joined Arsenal. But yeah, I think this is the perfect stage for him to kind of really provide and really kind of settle himself in this Arsenal side a little bit. I think he's looking for that moment. Those goals against Spurs are obviously brilliant, fantastic for building reputation for the fans. But if you want to become like a top elite player, these are the games you're going to kind of have to show it him. So I think he's also a confidence player. I talked about his inconsistency, but that goal against Leverkusen during the week, I think will do him the world of good, and it'll make him a bit more likely to take on those speculative efforts.
Yeah, was never a player at Palace who, upon returning from whether it was a long injury or in the case of under Vieira not being favoured, would need 5 to 10 games to play himself into form. And there was a saying at Palace, they call him springtime ebbs, where the moment daylight savings kicks in and all that stuff, suddenly his rate of output doubles essentially, and you finish the season on a high and everyone says wow, and then you start generating transfer interest. And part of that was why I was sort of not surprised that Arsenal-sized club would be interested in him, but whether they would bite on the price tag would be sort of dependent on whether they think they could get that output out of him across the whole season. So what's been happening so far, I've not been too shocked by, but equally, he will be the moment's player, as you say, and he'll want to be as involved as possible. He does get a shot away. I've noticed he likes to wind up a shot quite transparently, so you get a lot of block shots outside the area where he's kind of shown his hand a bit too much. But, definitely a player to be getting some shots underway. But are you saying, Rob, this is completely uninfluenced by the goal midweek?
I would say so. So. I think it was more the price than anything. I think 1.8 is a really decent price for a player like that to have a shot on target. It's just, I'm again in agreement with Ramis about taking on players who've got really high shot volume. And I think I'd never heard the springtime ebbs thing. Obviously, that's the advantage of having someone on that knows a player like that. But I think Eze is one of maybe a couple of players, along with perhaps maybe someone like Morgan Rogers, where they've got a really good chance to kind of kick on here for the England team, because Eze and Rodgers can both play the two kind of slightly questionable positions for England, which is the 10 and the left side. I think Eze is actually kind of best somewhere in between those two, realistically. But if he can finish the season strong, then he's going to put himself in a really good position to get plenty of minutes at the World Cup as well.
Couple of goals against Man City for Palace as well, at least 2 off the top of my head. So yeah, makes sense. Put him in. That's Eze, 1+ shot on target to our bet builder. What's the final one then, Rob?
Now, this is a selection that it kind of almost slightly pains me to take, because I hate it, and I'm going to hate seeing it actually come in a way, because we're going for Gabriel to draw 1 or more fouls at 1.44. I was actually really interested in the higher line at 2.7, because he's drawn 8 fouls in his last 4 matches. It feels like a switch has flicked with Gabriel. He realises that he can now just fall over and get fouls. Like, we've all seen the clips going around recently.
As I say, they're going viral now, aren't they? Yeah,
of him looking over his shoulder and waiting, and then just, I hate those fouls at the best of times, but for someone who's prides himself on being such a big brute and a big defender, it's slightly embarrassing. He is drawing 1.12 fouls per 90, which is solid enough anyway when you're getting a price of 1.14. I just think in a game like this, he's had a lot of battles with Haaland in recent times, and Haaland's pace and his power, like, it is something that would trouble the best of defenders, which Gabriel obviously is. And I can see him trying to look and just buy a couple of fouls here and there to get them out of slightly tricky situations. And I think this plays into the kind of the great thing that I mentioned at the top of the show, that I think I don't think Arteta is going to be discouraging him from doing it, if I'm completely honest. I think, if you're getting backed into a corner, maybe even by someone like Bernardo Silva high up the pitch, I wouldn't be surprised to see him just flop to the floor as he has been doing so consistently recently. So yeah, kind of don't want to see this happening. It boils my blood even watching my side, Carlisle, in the National League, and you've got 6'5" defenders just crumpling from a 5'4" winger. It does my head in, but it's a good price given the stats. He's been fouled a lot recently. The referees are going for it, so lock it in. It's a good price.
It's a good price, so let's lock it in. Our 4-leg bet builder for this match, the EFL Cup final. Antoine Semenyo to score or be shown a card. Bernardo Silva to commit 2+ fouls. Eberechi Eze for 1+ shot on target. And Gabriel to be fouled 1+ times. That's combined odds of 10.67 on Paddy Power, where we'll be placing this bet. If you want to follow us in on that, you can click the link below in the show description, and that will take you to the bet on Paddy Power. Or if you want to tailor your own and mix it up a little bit, go to andysbetclub.co.uk/bet-builder. Players must be 18 or over, and please gamble responsibly. Now, did mention at the start of the show, we are going to have a standout single as it's slightly longer odds. So, Rob, what was the standout single here from those selections?
Well, we've gone for the love interest of this podcast, Antoine Semenyo, to score or be shown a card. I think the beauty of that market, it's just such an intriguing one, and I love something with a little bit of fun involved in it as well. Like, we talk about all the stats and all the research that we do on this podcast, but it is great to really enjoy a big game like this and have a bet where you're not just watching for one thing. Like, it could be the most innocuous foul or something for Semenyo that lands this, or it could be a 30-yard screamer, and both of them get you a tick on your bet builder, and I think that's great to track.
Well, there we go. That's the standout single, Antoine Semenyo to score or be shown a card. Thanks very much, Rob and Ramis. Hopefully you can go one better than your last pick, and we can get this bet builder in for the EFL Cup final. But enjoy some time off now, because we are off for the international break. But you listener, don't forget us. If you subscribe to the podcast on your app of choice, you won't miss our next episode, which will return after that international break. But for now, in the meantime, thank you, good luck, and goodbye.